U.S. state-run Rodong Sinmun on Saturday. The regime claims its nuclear development is to deter the U.S.'s reckless moves to start a nuclear war. The paper adds that North Korea's weapons development has been transparent, unlike Washington's weapons that it says are poised for use in an invasion. Watchers say the remarks suggest Pyongyang is feeling particularly isolated on the international stage.
Has been sent to space as part of Japan's own version of the global positioning system. The Michibiki system will be used for automated machinery, relief efforts in times of disaster, and other fields.
3, 2,
Main engine started.
0.
An H-2A rocket lifted off from the Tanegashima Space Center in southwestern Japan on Saturday. It carried Michibiki No. 3, one of the 4 satellites that will be used in the system. GPS technology developed in the U.S. has a margin of error of about 10 meters. When the Michibiki is ready and works in tandem with GPS, that margin will be reduced to just a few centimeters. Researchers hope the system will gather more accurate information about the height of tsunami and deliver that data sooner. About 370 people gathered in Yokohama to watch the rocket launch.
It was a great launch.
It's cool. I'd like to ride a rocket.
The Michibiki system is scheduled to go into practical operation next spring.
Now this military drill is really one of the largest in the region. It has thousands of South Korean, U.S. allied troops. It's a computerized war game, and they test out different scenarios regarding conventional and nuclear threats and how each side would respond. Now it lasts for 10 days and has been going on since the 70s. Now each year North Korea, their propaganda machine really, it uses this event to play the victim and to try to drive a wedge through the effort in hopes of driving U.S. forces from the Korean Peninsula.
The Ulchi Freedom Guardian drills are being conducted in South Korea from Monday until August 31st. Now, this year's exercises will be mainly computer simulated and designed to check coordination between militaries. About 50,000 South Korean military personnel are involved. On the U.S. side, this year's troop number is 17,500, a reduction from last year's 25,000. On Monday, North Korean state media criticized the exercise, saying it represents the United States scheming for war and a challenge to peace. The drills also follow a threat from Pyongyang earlier this month. It said it had plans to fire ballistic missiles into waters near the U.S. territory of Guam. Kim Jong-un has since walked that threat back.
South Korea and the U.S. kicked off on Monday their large-scale joint war game exercise known as Ulchi Freedom Guardian. Pyongyang has long denounced the exercise, calling it a rehearsal for a northern invasion, while Seoul and Washington stressed that the drills, which run until August 31st, are purely defensive in nature. The exercise is a computerized command post exercise which excludes field maneuvers. Military officials say that this year's exercise will include a 3-step nuclear deterrence strategy, which consists of ways to counter an imminent nuclear launch or threat of a nuclear attack by the regime. South Korean Joint Chiefs of Staff officials say that the drills will be smaller in size compared to last year and will involve a reduction in the number of U.S. forces taking part. Around 17,000 U.S. troops are currently taking part in the drills, while some 25,000 U.S. soldiers took part last year. According to South Korea's Defense Ministry, 50,000 South Korean troops are also taking part. It is not yet known if Washington will deploy strategic assets to the peninsula. The two allies have also upped their readiness and surveillance for possible North Korean provocations during the drills.
North Korea should not distort our efforts, and it should not make provocative actions aggravating the situation by using it as an excuse.
So this is dividing much of South Korea and prompting a robust debate in Washington. Does the U.S. really modify the games or show restraint in hopes of bringing North Korea to the negotiating table? Or do we show strength? Does the U.S. demonstrate it will not give in to threats or abandon allies? Well, that debate is heating up here, or in South Korea rather, as activists demand that they stop the exercises to appease Kim Jong-un to avoid war.
The South Korean-U.S. combined military exercises begin today. I think the right thing to do is to minimize the scale of the exercises or to stop the exercises permanently, because the exercises can provoke North Korea during the crisis in the Korean Peninsula.
So the question is, how will North Korea respond to this 10-day event? Well, last year, it fired a ballistic missile from a submarine. It had an underground nuclear test, and then it fired 4 missiles capable of hitting U.S. bases in Japan. So history suggests, Shannon, that he will not remain silent, but as you know, he's been warned, don't hit Guam or threaten U.S. forces. We'll see.
We are prepared. We're prepared militarily. We're prepared with our allies to respond if that is necessary. That is not our preferred pathway, and that's been made clear as well.
Warning America of a, quote, merciless strike just one day before we in South Korea are set to begin our annual military exercises there. Pyongyang calling the drills, quote, reckless behavior, driving the situation into the uncontrollable phase of a nuclear war, they claim. Well, will the exercises further heighten and inflame the tensions, or bluntly remind Kim Jong-un of what his military forces could face?
From South Korea now, the leader of that country saying President Trump has promised to give him a heads up before beginning any type of military response to recent threats from the north.
In South Korea, President Moon Jae-in says the U.S. promises to consult with his government before attacking North Korea.
Only South Korea can decide military actions on the Korean Peninsula. Nobody can choose to carry out military action without South Korea's consent. The United States and President Trump have made a promise to fully cooperate and ask for our agreement in advance before utilizing whatever options they might use against the North.
North Korea says it is holding off on a decision to launch missiles towards Guam, home of Anderson Air Force Base, strategically placed and where the United States launches B-1 bombers in a show of force, or more, if necessary. Less than a week after escalating threats from President Trump and North Korea consumed the region. And they met only hours after White House Chief Strategist Steve Bannon said, according to the American Prospect, that there is no military solution in North Korea, adding, quote, they got us.
I don't really have a comment on what Mr. Bannon's remarks were in that particular interview.
The president's chief strategist, Steve Bannon, is out of a job, as Fox reports this hour.
He said there's no military solution, forget it. Now that directly conflicted with what both Tillerson and Jim Mattis said about North Korea, where they said the military option is on the table.
I think we have been quite clear as to what the policy and the posture towards North Korea is.
In close collaboration with our allies, there are strong military consequences if DPRK initiates hostilities.
What do you think about that?
I think so, and I think that you can add President Trump to that list for saying fire and fury would rain down on North Korea if they continue to threaten the United States. So Steve Bannon goes out and clearly shows the hand of the administration, suggests that North Korea has all the leverage here because Seoul, South Korea would be essentially evaporated if North Korea decided to start firing. That was enough to demonstrate, I think, a very clear difference between Steve Bannon and the White House in terms of just betraying a policy position, one that needs to be close-hold, especially in a national security situation.
Traveling in China, Marine Corps General Joseph Dunford, chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, said the president told the military to develop a credible, viable military option, and, quote, that's exactly what we're doing. He added a military solution would be horrific, though allowing North Korea to develop nuclear technology to hit the United States is unimaginable.
If you don't like North Korea's behavior today, imagine what it would be like when it has 60 or 100 ICBMs, each of which has a nuclear warhead at the tip of it, which it could deliver against the United States. I understand the concern about South Koreans being put in jeopardy if there's a military option that we take. I tell you what concerns me, it's millions of dead Americans. This regime is not rational in our terms. It may be rational in its own terms, but it's a different universe that they're living in. And the circumstances that we face there with Iran, potentially with other rogue states or terrorist groups getting nuclear weapons, this is an inflection point. If we can't stop North Korea and Iran from getting nuclear weapons, I think there's no limit to it worldwide.
And Kim Jong-un has promised and threatened just what you said.
Sun Tower, good afternoon. Runway 27 right, one estimated 080 at 3, clear for takeoff, change to departure, have a safe flight.
At Osan Air Base, a U.S. air base in South Korea, they are watching.
We're up there, we are keeping eyes and ears on North Korea.
And they are waiting.
So I can start to cue missiles, I can cue radars, I can cue targeting pod.
Traps 1, traffic is now off your right wing, 3 miles.
The control tower coordinates a few dozen military flights a day, sending these spy planes, dubbed Dragon Lady, up over the Korean peninsula.
We're busier here than we've been probably in the last 10 years. We're very busy. But we are tasked every day to fly our mission, so we do that.
Pressurized suits allow pilots to soar at altitudes of 70,000 feet. That's twice as high as a commercial jet. The one-seater spy planes are flown by 8 specially trained officers. The job to provide intelligence, surveillance, and reconnaissance. A window for Washington into North Korea needed now as much as ever.
Everything that this aircraft is collecting is almost instantaneously sent down to people who can process, exploit, and disseminate that information in minutes to our leadership.
We would be ready to launch operations out of both airspaces or both air bases at a moment's notice and be ready to fight tonight.
Major Danny Trueblood is on a 2-year tour to South Korea, taking up a job that U.S. troops have done for decades, since the end of the Korean War.
The F-16s are pivotal to basically the defense and any potential actions. So with GPS or laser-guided weapons, we can strike a variety of different targets.
This U.S. airbase is fewer than 40 miles from the North Korean border. These supersonic jets can fly about 16 miles a minute. So in the case of a conflict with North Korea, they could reach the DMZ in just 2 to 3 minutes.
They practice daily, sometimes with mock battles. On this day, 12 of the Air Force's F-16 fighter jets take off.
Because we don't know. With the unpredictability of things, tonight may be, in fact, the night. So we train every night.
Still the same work they've done every day for decades. Now with the world watching what happens next.